So we're here today on Santa Monica Pier to talk to you guys about the brand new Sony A7C, the new $1,800 pocketable full frame camera from Sony. Let's go. So this camera shares a lot of the same specs of another camera made by Sony, actually called the Sony A7 III. It shares the exact same 24.2 megapixel full frame sensor, has a 5-axis image stabilization system, same almost everything except we do get some new autofocus and some new color modes and stuff here. But ultimately this is an A7 III, which came out like almost 3 years ago now, shrunk down into the size of an APS-C body from Sony. In fact, now that this camera exists, I'm kind of wondering why anybody would pick up an A6000 line of cameras like the 63, 64, and 6500 cameras. Those cameras are great, don't get me wrong, but this now kind of replaces that for two reasons. Number one, full frame. We all want it, we all need it. It's something we all crave. There's some sort of thing about full frame that all of us are obsessed with. I think Gerald Undone really said it best when he said there's two ways you can go with technology. You can take the form factor of the previous generation and upgrade the internals and make it better and faster and stronger, and that's what the Sony A7S III is. Or you can take the technology of yesterday and put it inside of a tiny compact body, because as technology advances you can shrink that tech down into smaller packages. That's exactly what's happened here with the A7C, and I for one am very excited about it. Let's talk about it. Well, I mean, we already are, so. So I first want to talk about the body of this camera, because that's really the main selling point. It does melt into your hands fairly well, especially if you happen to have smaller hands. But for somebody like me who has a little bit above average hands, I feel like there's just not enough grip here to really get a good hold on it. But the fact that it's so small is something that I guess is a worthy trade-off in terms of small grip. So for reference, in terms of size, this is the iPhone SE 2, which is the same size as like a 7 or an 8. And the A7C is actually smaller in width. One great addition here is the SD card slot placement. It's actually on the side here, which might not seem like a big deal to most, but if you're used to the A6000 line of cameras from Sony, this is huge. All those APS-C cameras have the SD card slot down here by the battery, which is super annoying when you're trying to change your memory card out and your camera's on a gimbal or a tripod or something like that. So having it off to the side here is wonderful. Another great addition here is the mic jack placement. This is something that I know you guys probably laugh at me about, but it's one of my first things that I look at is the mic jack in the right spot in terms of the flip screen? And it is. It gets out of the way of the flip screen when you flip that thing around. So this is huge for vloggers. In addition to that, we also get the USB-C port that charges it as well, and a micro HDMI cable. I wish we could get away from those stupid micro HDMI ports, but it is what it is. I think overall the build is pretty decent. It does feel a little plasticky, but not too plasticky. It's kind of like a very pro plasticky, if you know what I mean. There's no joystick on this camera, so if you're a photographer and you're used to having that little, you know, D-pad directional thing, you don't have that here. But the real kind of magic to this camera is that sensor. A full frame sensor in a camera body of this size is really unheard of, and what makes this stand out, at least to me. Sony's kind of known for having great function buttons on their cameras, but that is not necessarily the case here. The cropped bodies from Sony actually have more function buttons than this one. There's no function buttons here on the top, and you don't really get that many options here as well, but you can map the D-pad, you can map the trash can icon. One nice addition is they changed the orientation of the video and photo switch here. It seems pretty minor, but on the older cameras, you would have to like really rotate that thing around to go to the manual photo mode and then really roll it all the way back to video. So now manual photo mode is just one click away. Or if you want to go into the slow motion mode, one click away. One last note on the body here, you do have that amazing little hot shoe adapter thing here. So you can plug in microphones or the XLR adapter. So that makes this thing automatically much more professional. They've also added the new battery system, the Z battery. And this battery is way better than the old Sony batteries. This is literally the best battery on the market right now. You get like 2 to 3 hours sometimes on this battery. So, but who's this camera for? Photographers? YouTubers? So let's face it, this is exactly what Sony was thinking of when they were building this camera. You can see yourself with the flip screen. Hello, thank God that Sony's finally doing this. You can trust the autofocus system because right now I can see a little box on my eyeball every time I move. So we get all the gyro data in the camera here, so you can pull it into Catalyst Browse, and boom, now your footage looks super ridiculously stable. Even though the IBIS system isn't the best in the world, that gyro data is pretty incredible. So as a video camera, the Sony A7C really is very similar to the A7 III, which means we get all the same picture profiles that we know and love. S-Log2, S-Log3 are there. I do recommend using S-Log2 on this camera. This is an 8-bit only camera. But one nice addition is the new standard creative style mode, and that is what the majority of this footage that you've seen in this video has been shot on. I find that the color science on this new mode is incredible. Skin tones look good, the highlights and the shadows roll off nicely, and it's a good baked in profile that I personally choose to shoot on for a lot of my YouTube videos. And if you're a vlogger or content creator, that's what you're gonna wanna do. But what about photos? This camera obviously is designed as a hybrid camera, and I think it may as well be one of the best hybrid cameras in this price bracket. However, if you are a professional photographer, you may not like some of the things about this. The EVF resolution is very low, so if you're relying on this as your main way to take pictures, I would not recommend this camera. But if you're okay with shooting on the back of the screen here for the majority of the time, then you're totally fine. As far as burst shooting on this for photographers, you can go up to 10 frames per second. And of course, you get the incredible raw dynamic range of a Sony camera. This sensor is very good in low light. You can easily take it up to 10,000 ISO and be fine. It's also got incredible dynamic range. The color science overall for both photo and video has improved drastically in my opinion. They've fixed some of the magenta issues in S-Log2, not S-Log3, but S-Log2 for some reason. And if you are using an older Sony body, it would make me a little tempted to buy this one. Finally, Sony has done it. The Sony A7C may be one of the best all-around vlog cameras on the market, but what happens if you need some extra B-roll? That's where today's sponsor, Storyblocks, comes in. Let's say you're walking around Santa Monica with your new A7C camera and you need some extra aerial shots, but unfortunately you forgot your drone and you don't have a permit to fly on the Santa Monica Pier. But you are not out of luck, because if you go to storyblocks.com and search Santa Monica Pier, because it's a very popular location, surely there's an aerial shot, and boom, there's one right there that you could use in your video. In addition to thousands of HD and 4K stock footage, you can also download presets like motion graphics for After Effects or even Apple Motion. In fact, I've actually downloaded a few presets for Final Cut using the Apple Motion presets on Storyblocks for the subscribe button. See, like right here, you click the subscribe button and the thumbs up and then the bell. I got that off of storyblocks.com. If you're a video professional at all, I highly recommend getting a Storyblocks subscription using our link storyblocks.com/IndieMogul. When you sign up, you have access to these thousands of stock footage clips and motion graphics effects. So head over to storyblocks.com/IndieMogul to learn more. Once again, we'd like to thank Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. Now, back to the A7C, not the Canon A7S III. So all in all, I really truly think that the A7C is probably the best all-around camera for a brand new YouTube creator. I mean, if I was starting out my YouTube channel from scratch right now, this would be first on my list. Full frame, 4K, reliable autofocus with a flip screen and in a body the size of an iPhone, it's really incredible. Same for photography as well. If you want something compact and affordable that's full frame with IBIS stabilization and incredible dynamic range, it's really hard to beat, and I think Sony has really done an incredible job. This camera would pair really nicely with the Sony A7S III. What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below and let's have a conversation about the A7C. If you want to see more content on it, let us know as well. Once again, I'm your host, Dave Mays. Behind the camera is our one and only Matt. This is Indie Mogul, and we'll see you next time.